Coach, thanks for joining us. So let's go right to the news. The league is now reviewing Kareem Jackson's hit on Dobbs in that first quarter. Are you concerned you might lose him to suspension again?
Yeah, I mean, look, I saw the same articles that you guys saw, and then you pay attention to that because there's a handful of reporters that are usually on point with some league news. So I talked to Kareem already this morning. We just there's nothing there's nothing you can do except wait, and we'll see where it goes.
Go ahead, Parker.
Hey, Sean, you talked last night about obviously having a lot to clean up despite winning 4 in a row. Where does just figuring out a way to be better offensively in the third quarter fall into that? Because obviously you got off to a slow start.
Yeah, listen, we weren't good offensively in the first or second quarter, so I'm willing to start in the third quarter, but I just think that 5 field goals, our red zone production, our third down production first off, but last night was disappointing watching the film. We knew it was a complex defense relative to what they did, but I felt like we didn't defend the run the way we wanted to. We certainly didn't score enough points the way we wanted to, and the turnovers gave us a chance to win the game. That's the reality of it.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, I'm wondering if you can just touch upon Jaquan McMillan and just, he has 3 takeaways the last 2 games and just the knack he's had of getting to the ball.
Yeah, sometimes there are certain players the ball finds them, and he seems to have some of those traits. And so, proud of how he's played and how he's worked, and his enthusiasm, it's kind of contagious, and I think he's brought a lot to the defense.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Coach, two decisions you made last night that I'd like to ask you about. A little interesting. And the 4th and 3 at the Minnesota 12. Seems like analytics always these days go for it. You took the points, kind of the old school move there. And then there with 3 minutes to go, Samaje, the 3rd and 10 run, which you kind of know 4th down is coming up there. You're going to have a 4th down play. Just if you could go through those 2 decisions.
Yeah, I took the points. I felt that was going to be it. There's certain weeks. How do I say this? There's certain weeks we're going to be more aggressive. We're playing Kansas City, and we think we're going to have to score X number of points, or we're playing a team, where you feel like the game's going to be a game where field goals aren't going to decide it. And then there's sometimes you trust your gut relative to the way you're playing and the opponent you're playing, and I'm glad I did. And then the others in the 2-minute drill, in trying to reduce you're in a 2-play situation there. We got a lot more coverage last night, 3rd down. There's a pressure look they give you. They bail out and they play their coverage. They play prevent. They were injured at corner. So they had, a new starter in the game, and probably the one thing schematically that, we just talked about it as a staff, we always, when the game's over with, we talk defensively, offensively, in the kicking game. All right, if we played them again this upcoming weekend, what would we do different? And offensively, one of the topics was, invest more in some of the 2 deep coverage looks that we got relative to having answers. And so, fortunately, we had a gain there, and then we converted on 4th down.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Sean, I'm curious, even taking out the last, your game-winning drive, you had Russell in the shotgun a bigger percentage of the time than any game this year in sort of your 1-score games.
That's right.
Was that by design, and did that affect your run profile?
Well, the number one thing that affected the run profile last night was 2 for 11 on 3rd down. So when you look at time of possession, you look at snaps, it's just impossible to have the run. Now, that didn't impact yards per, which weren't good. But to your point, yeah, a little bit had to do with the type of defense we were playing. Much was made during the week. We talked about it, man. Just the exotic looks, the different looks. It's very different. And you go every series, there's going to be an 11-up look or at least a cover 0 look, which they do a great job of getting out of. So it's a lot of zone coverage, not a lot of man coverage. And so some of those looks can present problems. You have to have answers, whether you're running the ball or whether you're throwing the ball. So it was a game where when you put the list together, there weren't a lot of nakeds or boots. The looks weren't good at all for that stuff. So it was going to be more of a run game, drop back pass game based on the type of scheme we were seeing. And so, we had enough under center. We had some under center. Here's the thing. You have a whole game plan put together, but when you go 2 of 11, like 80% of it never gets used. And it's frustrating because there's a number of plays that I'm looking down on thinking, man, we didn't get to this. I think it would have been good, but we didn't have the snaps. And that's something that you just have to be better. And you don't have to convert third downs. You can make a first down on first or second down. So we didn't take advantage of those opportunities. We've got to do a better job starting with us as coaches, and then, right down the line.
Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, Coach, how do you keep these guys focused riding a 4-game win streak with players that haven't had much experience winning in the NFL?
Well, if you watch this tape I'm watching, there'll be plenty of time to get focused because it's not really good. And the turnovers, like I said, put us in the game. But they ran the ball better than us. They were better than us on third down, better than us in the red zone in most areas, better than us in the kicking game.
Go ahead, Andrew.
You've alluded a couple of times to the run defense. So from the film, what did you see that went wrong yesterday against the run? And is this similar to the issues against the run that were present earlier on in the season?
No, fortunately, that pandemic has passed. I think, look, at times you're playing a single safety defense. We should be, in a single gap look. So our gap integrity wasn't clean the way it needed to be. And, when that happens and teams that run the ball hit a gap where you're not where you're supposed to be, you end up with an 8-yard gain instead of a 2-yard gain.
Go ahead, Brandon.
John, 2 for you real quick. With your whole family there, so on pregame, did you get to pick post-game meal? I know there's not a lot of places open as late as y'all finish. And then on a more, I guess, broader but more football-related note, with a player like Russ or any player that I guess has that clutch gene, can you quantify how, a guy can come across as, I guess, sort of pedestrian, but when the game is on the line to have that ability to make the necessary plays, because he's obviously done it his whole career?
Yeah, and I would say this, if you went back the first time he did it, he probably, I don't know what, if you went back and saw, was it his, first or second season, maybe it was in a preseason game, then he has a second one, and then as a starter, he has a third one, and then pretty soon, the group believes, and it gets kind of back to that confidence and demonstrated ability discussion. And then when, you've had 37 or 36, 38, there's a clear belief that it can happen again. And so I think it's one of those things that can build confidence and momentum. And fortunately for 2 weeks in a row now, it's come up and been very important for us. And then, earlier, look, I'm lucky enough to have, my kids are able to come to games. They come to a lot of them. Last night was just Pizza Hut Uber at the house.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Sean, do you think you could have PJ locked back for Sunday's game against Cleveland?
We'll see. We'll see where he's at. He's rehabbing. We discussed it this morning. We'll probably have a better idea mid to later in the week.
Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, Coach, a lot has been made about the 13 takeaways in the 4-game win streak, but only 2 turnovers in that time. How key has that been as well? And what's been the key to the few turnovers?
Well, the ball security is something, you know, in other words, that too, I think is coaching and emphasis and it's the whole topic, you know, of protecting it and taking it and then, you know, discussing it's one thing, but then actually, you know, emphasizing it during the day and talking to the scout team players on defense, saying, we want you to try to, you know, attack the ball and challenge our guys and then force, you know, so there's a bundle of information there. And then how do you bring it to practice? And then how do you, you know, you have a turnover circuit drill Thursday, all those things factor in. And so to your point, when you're doing one very well and you're doing the other very well, you probably win a lot of games and maybe some games where, you know, it's the one key stat in our game. And it's not just a stat, but the one key component to our game that can, you know, trump everything else.
Go ahead, Eric.
So Will went 5 for 5 last night. I guess just how critical was that to getting the win, and how do you see that whole unit respond to some of the struggles from last week?
Yeah, we were pleased, and you know, he got the game ball on special teams, deservedly so. You know, obviously all 5 of those were necessary, and that was good to see. We needed it. You know, we needed it.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, Coach, I was just wondering about your Thanksgiving schedule, asking for a friend.
Yeah, it's the normal schedule I think we're used to in the league. Our normal practice week, after practice on Thursday, we'll get guys out of here. We'll watch the film. We normally would watch the film after practice Thursday, and the coaches would begin to game plan. We'll get a jump start on the game plan, and then back up probably Friday's practice to get the Thursday film done, so guys can get home after practice on Thursday.
Coach, that looks like that's all that's in the queue for you today.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.